South African Communist Party, viva!
Viva!
Viva ANC, viva!
Viva!
Long live Umkhonto weSizwe, long live!
Long live!
Program Director, ndikulibuwa newa chipinga uri ndikonobala obituary hei lati tukumbela uri ritakuwe rote riminga milenje obituary ya Comrade Amos MBULAHENI Mbedzi ubebwa zi 18 za August 1964 varisiya zi 7 za June 2022. Amos early years. Amos Mbedzi was born on the 18th of August 1964 at Chitungulwane village, now known as Shigamani village. Amos is the third child of the late Daniel Ndanganeni Mbedzi, who was fondly known as Braden, and the late Kazi Bumwope Chizikawa, Nechitungulwane Mundalamo Chishonga Mbedzi. Within 4 years, in 1968, the people of Chitungulwane village were relocated to the current area, Shigamani, in the Vuani magisterial district in Venda. The villages were swept due to apartheid forced removals underpinned by separate development. As a result, the Venda and Watsonga people were staying harmoniously together, were separated in the assault of African unity by the highest stage of colonialism of special type. Apartheid through its segregationist policies. His rejection of apartheid regime resulted in him joining in the struggle against historical injustice when he grew up. In the family, Amos inherited the name Nangambi from his late uncle, Mr. Nangambi Chitungulwane, who had left South Africa to participate in the World War II against fascism and never returned home to this day. This is an absolute sign that the revolutionary trait has always been within the blood of the family. Amos the scholar. Amos started schooling when the capitalist system experienced the oil crisis of the early 1970s. He attended primary school at Chiawero Primary School in Soweto, Johannesburg, from 1973 to 1976. In 1977, he moved to Georgian Holt Primary School in Makonde village, now in Thulamela local municipality, Vembe district municipality. Amos finished his primary school in 1979. Afterwards, he attended secondary school at Rabubimba Secondary School in Makonde village from 1980 to 1981 and moved to Mpapuri Secondary School from 1982 to 1985. Amos the worker. Amos passing his matric, the young and energetic Amos MBULAHENI Mbedzi worked for a year as a teacher in 1986 to raise funds to further his studies. Amos the activist. A year later, in 1987, he gained admission at the University of Venda, pursuing his studies in BA in education degree. It was during this time that Nangambi was baptized in politics through student activism. He was conscientized and joined the South African National Student Congress, SANSCO, and other student formations. On 68th anniversary of the African National Congress, the ANC, through its January 8th statement, declared the 1980 to 1990s the decade of the liberation. The declaration escalated internal mass mobilization amongst struggle actions, internal solidarity and underground political work in the country. Within the continuum of mass mobilization, the liberation movement, with the tripartite alliance led by the ANC, the South African Communist Party and the Progressive Trade Union Movement, represented by the also represented by the South African Congress of Trade Unions, after its founding in 1985 by COSATU, at the forefront to set up the organs of people's power as an alternative to apartheid regime and its Bantustan authorities. This culminated in South Africa being rendered ungovernable, contributing to the transition to the democratic dispensation. It was in this context that Comrade Amos Mbedzi joined the struggle for liberation and universal social emancipation. Amos, the student leader. As a young student at Univen, he was part of the contingent of activists who, as part of fighting for the people's education for people's power, led the student movement, SANSCO. In 1988, he was elected class representative and eventually a member of the Social Sciences Student Representative Council or Committee. Comrade Amos Mbedzi continued to play this role in 1989. He was instrumental in fighting the vestiges of racism within the social sciences at Univen, contribution to the overall mass mobilization program of the liberation movement. This led to the anti-Venda Independent 10th Anniversary Celebration Campaign adopted in the far northern Transvaal. Amos, the community developer. Beyond student activism, Comrade Amos Mbedzi was a cultural worker, struggling for people's culture, for people's power. As a community and rural development activist and a facilitator at Agani Rural Development, he played a key role in the mobilization and conscientizing communities against the apartheid regime. Comrade Amos Mbedzi's love for community development and cultural activism was high. This became clearer when he was working for Agani Rural Development, together with the comrade Rashaga Rachitanga, who is now the veteran of the struggle. Comrade Amos also co-founded a non-governmental organization called the Rural Development Collective, which operated at the University of Venda. Amos, the art activist. In 1988, he became founder member of the Congress of South African Writers for Northern Transvaal region, which was launched a year later, in 1989. COSATU mobilized cultural workers and groups towards the liberation struggle by ensuring that they desist from participation in Bantustan programs. It affiliated to the Federation of South African Cultural Organization, FOSACO, towards building people's culture for people's power. Comrade Amos Mbedzi was elected the regional coordinator of FOSACO in the Northern Transvaal region. Together with Comrade Tshadaka and Azwindini Muronga, he continued to dissuade cultural workers and groups from participating into apartheid Bantustan programs. Both for FOSACO and COSATU, which would still operate, hosted other progressive structures in the region, sharing their resources and providing logistics in advancing the people's struggle and mobilizing in the region. Amos, the youth leader. At the height of repression by Venda police, Comrade Amos actively participated in the activities of Makondo Youth Congress. He was a strong pillar, always ready to serve as part of the underground leadership collective. His love for revolutionary songs was very catalytic in ensuring that the youth swelled the ranks of the South African Youth Congress. It was therefore not surprising at all that Comrade Amos and the other 4 leaders within the collective hosted at the second floor of the VDC building in Twando who left for exile in pursuit of the liberation struggle. Amos, the MK soldier, commissar. All youth to the battleground. All youth must join and strengthen Umkondo Wesizwe, the MK, When this clarion call to join and strengthen the ANC and the SACP armed struggle formation, the People's Liberation Army, the MK, was made, Comrade Amos did not hesitate to do so. His move for exile was precisely determined for joining the MK. He trained in Dr. Ugong Kabendi camp in Uganda. He was one of the finest comrades in the political arena in the Bani Mulugwana detachment. After guerrilla warfare training, he underwent conventional training conducted by Transkei Defense Force under former Transkei General Bantu Olomisa. During his stay in the camp, he was deployed in propaganda where they were responsible for day-to-day assessment of African and world news and report to the camp at the GP or gathering point. He was with the likes of Comrade Rush, Solly Mapaila at the propaganda. Dr. Ugong Kabinde was a real political school where every soldier will debate and process news as they are outlined. He will ameliorate the living conditions of the life and the camps through his jokes and care less about flatulence caused by the beans consumption we were accustomed to. He wasn't quite such a pedantic comrade, but will obviate the undesirable environment in the camps through political engagement and discussion. One of his strengths was adaptability. During the harshest period of mosquitoes in the camps, where our bodies would desiccate any little mosquito in the bodies, wherein you can dry on our skin. At that period, he would be found in Medico, where some of us would be daily guests of the center. At the time, the brutal apartheid regime was unleashing its most progressive repressive operations and violence against the oppressed, the super exploited, the discriminated, the marginalized, the underdeveloped, the excluded, with more hatred above all against the communists. The apartheid regime intensified its state of emergency. It escalated its detention without trial, which dated back to its banning of the Communist Party in the 1950s under the Suppression of Communism Act, and deepened and widened with the beginning of the ANC and other formations 10 years later in 1960. However, the apartheid regime had suffered a devastating blow, a monumental defeat by the liberational forces, notably through Cuban intervention, in the Battle of Quito Carnaval in Angola. Comrade Amos was inspired by the victory over the apartheid forces in the historical Battle of Quito Carnaval, which irreversibility strengthened and deepened his internationalist world outlook and commitment to international solidarity. Because of its defeat in the Battle of Quito Carnaval, the apartheid regime was also forced to implement the United Nations resolution on the independence of Namibia. The defeat of apartheid regime in the Battle of Quito Carnaval thus paved the way not only for resolving the Angolan situation, but also for the independence of Namibia and the April 1994 democratic breakthrough in South Africa. Amos returned home from exile. After returning from exile, he integrated into the South African National Defense Force. After resigning from the SANDF, Comrade Amos continued to play a leading role in the structures of our movement, serving in the structures of the SACP and the ANC, in pursuit of his commitment to the struggle of the workers and the poor for a better life and universal emancipation. Amos' arrest in Swaziland. Continuing to advance his internationalism, Comrade Amos Mbedzi took part in active international solidarity with the people of Swaziland, struggling for democracy and social emancipation. Muswati's autocratic regime in Swaziland did not like this. In September 2008, the regime arrested Comrade Amos and later unjustly convicted and sentenced him to 85 years imprisonment, comprising concurrent sentences. On the same day when he was detained, he had lost his two comrades, Comrade Musa Dlamini, a member of the People's United Democratic Movement, Budemo of Swaziland, and Comrade Jack Govender, a member of the SACP, who was also a founding member of the Swaziland Solidarity Network. In March 2022, the cruel autocratic regime of Muswati transferred Mbedzi to South Africa after consistently depriving him of access to health care for a long time, resulting in his health and well-being deteriorating. The regime of the absolute monarch transferred Comrade Amos Mbedzi to complete his sentence in South Africa, after realizing that its intransigent decision to deprive him of health care and caused ultimate deterioration in his health and well-being. However, being ruthless with a do-not-care approach to human rights, Muswati's autocratic regime did not transfer Mbedzi to South Africa without consistent public pressure, among others by the South African Communist Party, COSATU, Budemo, the Communist Party of Swaziland, the SSN, the Young Communist League of South Africa, as rights organizations, and concerned South Africans and Swaziland people. Muswati's courts are not independent. They are under the iron fist of the absolute monarch. Because of this, they had no slightest thinking of releasing Mbedzi on humanitarian grounds, considering his deterioration, health, and well-being. Amos, the internationalist. An African revolutionary, internationalist, and communist till the end. South Africa's 1994 democratic breakthrough did not deter Comrade Amos Mbedzi from contributing to the struggle for a just world. He linked up democracy activists from Swaziland, primarily Budemo, to provide international solidarity to the people of Swaziland struggling for democracy and complete social emancipation. During his life, he also contributed to the spreading of the SSN, the Swaziland Solidarity Network, led by its chairperson, Comrade Solly Mapaila, the SACP's first Deputy General Secretary, across the length and breadth of South Africa. Amos' siblings. Amos Mbedzi is survived by his two children, Fano, Princess Lillian Mbedzi Williams, and Dr. Mkondo Mbedzi, and their mother, Ms. Ndandureni Rosalind Chikudo, his brothers, Rufuno, Obri Mbedzi, Dongi, and Ruzani Mbedzi, and sisters, Munjezi and Makazi Mbedzi. In memory of Comrade Amos Mbedzi, we commit to the support of the struggle of the people of Swaziland for the unconditional release of all political prisoners and unveiling of all political parties, freedom of speech, freedom of association, and political and other rights. This includes supporting the call for the unconditional return of all political exiles, as well as a recognition and respect for the people's right to freedom of assembly, movement, and free media. The entire Mbedzi family, the entire family of the South African and Swaziland liberation movement will always miss and remember Comrade Amos, the father, the husband, the uncle, a stalwart of the liberation struggle. Together, standing in one voice, we will always remember Amos Mbedzi by the following slogans he so dearly loved. Iyakonda hendira, enamifa, eyatava, iyakonda hendira, enamifa, eyatava, Rito Zavalaza, Rito Zavalaza, Rito Zavalaza. Ela metwa Ela tava Inzima lendlela Ela metwa Ela tava Amanda
Rauli bua musi rich connect